Hi, I'm Dan Ryder with the Heirloom Gardens in Reno, Nevada. And today we're going to plant a tree, specifically this apple tree in my yard. We picked a really sunny spot in our yard. This actually will get 10 hours a day in the summer, which fruit trees like. In fact, we were considering, we put a little protection above it, or actually planted it in the spot where some of the surrounding trees will protect it, because fruit trees can sometimes get too much sun. I'd like to talk about our hole a little bit. We actually, as recommended, we dig our hole twice as big as the root ball. In this case, it's about 32 inches across. You want to be very careful not to bury the root ball too deep, and that's a common mistake. People think that they're doing the tree a favor by building in a little reservoir, and in fact, sometimes they'll cover up the flare or the very base of the tree, and that can lead to problems in the future. Our tree selection, this is an apple tree. We like to keep our fruit trees pretty low to the ground and well pruned and trained. So we're hopeful we can pretty much make it do what we want. It's a dwarf tree, which implies that we'll be able to harvest quite a bit of fruit, and all within no more than 15 feet off the ground. So it makes it a little easier to harvest your apples. They do no good being 20 or 25 feet in the air in most cases. So we're going to go to work on planting this tree and talk about some of the specifics in just a moment. So really good news, it's a great root ball. These are tightly bound, but not necessarily pot bound. Or we've seen them, they're so tight where you literally have to cut some of the roots out of there. They're really healthy. Everything looks kind of white and pulpy. All the same, we're going to kind of free it up just a little bit, not too much. We don't want to damage anything if we don't have to, but we certainly want these roots to encourage them to grow out. Not much going on down there. At this stage, we use a fungal inoculant, mycorrhizae, which, basically it's a soil conditioner, but really improves the plant's ability to absorb nutrients. I'm going to carefully pour some of this in there. It's kind of expensive. But the idea here is direct contact with the roots. So we're going to spread this somewhat lightly, as much as we can get. Throw a little bit in the hole for good measure. As I'm setting this in there, I'd like to tell you, first of all, we don't recommend planting trees in turf. In fact, this turf is coming out. We're pulling it all out within the next couple of weeks. But we had the tree, and it was a great day to film, so here we are. That said, everything looks pretty level. Double check and make sure I'm not below the surface. The tree's going to be nice and straight. At this point, I want to look at the graft. This is the point where we've got a dwarf rootstock, and then more of a traditional tree. In this case, it's a cross between a Jonah Gold apple. Ooh, good point to talk about. We're talking about apple trees. Good time to talk about chill hours, and that is the number of hours the tree spends in wintertime conditions, and that becomes then a trigger. And when it warms over a certain point, they think it's spring. Well, because our winters are a little bit tricky, we have a big temperature swing, sometimes good, sometimes bad. That said, our trees are often tricked. High elevation, 4,200 feet. And we look for trees with a very high chill hour count, and I believe this is 700 plus chill hours, so it's a good chance we're going to see lots of fruit. Anyway, I'm going to backfill this hole with some of the native soil. I know a lot of people will use compost and other additives, potting soil sometimes. We believe that we want to backfill at least at this point with the native soil. We want to encourage the roots to grow out into that soil. We've actually seen trees that were pot bound in the soil because they never grew out of their beautiful, comfortable little home. Typically it was full of compost. So I'm going to fill this hole up. So it's a beautiful fall day, And fall's a great time to plant trees in general, fruit trees, any tree. You know, the summer they're putting a lot of energy into leaves and fruit and seeds and whatever it is they make. And in the fall they tend to put most of their energy into the root system. So that's exactly what we want them to do. I've got this packed nice and tight. We're going to water it in and put some stakes on it. And maybe put a little bit of mulch on top. Well, we're just about done here. We went ahead and put some irrigation into it. Even though the tree at this moment is in turf, and we don't recommend that, we would still put irrigation because, frankly, the roots on this plant are very, very deep, and in most cases, the turf, those roots are only about that deep. So we encircled the trunk and actually the root ball with half-inch tubing. We use these little button drippers. They're pretty easy to calibrate. In this case, a tree like this, we're going to try and give it 5 or 6 gallons a week in the summertime, and we provided that for that in our irrigation system. We did choose to stake the tree. Again, high desert environment. It's awfully windy here sometimes, and just help it out for the first year. No more than 2. And I want to make it really clear. We see a lot of trees that get strangled simply because they left the stuff on too long. We finished this planting off with a couple inches of compost. Again, very careful not to cover the flare of the tree. And then we're going to, on top of that, put some nice mulch down. And the mulch is, we're big mulch fans, but the mulch will help with moisture retention. It's a weed barrier. Over time it breaks down, it provides nutrients to the soil, and it also moderates the soil temperature, so it hopefully prevents it from getting too hot and too cold. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.